Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, we would greatly appreciate a like, comment, follow, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do. We would greatly appreciate it. This is actually, I'm a dumbass. This is actually my second time trying to record this episode of Hit the Pacecar, but yet I still am joined by Tyler. No Cory this week, unfortunately. He's having a family staycation, I guess you could say. So hopefully he's having a really good time with his family. But Tyler, for the second time, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Getting DEGA week started strong. Just got 420 over with. We're doing good.
Yeah, happy holidays out there to everybody who is celebrating the holidays, which is 420 blaze it. But here we are for another edition of Hit the Pacecar, and we do have some topics to go over this week, because of course we did have Kansas this past weekend for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, plus the NASCAR Cup Series, and we do have some more O'Reilly Auto Parts Series talk once we get into our news topics. Then of course we'll preview the weekend a little bit for DEGA, and then go through our weekly picks for DEGA. And from now on, ever since I heard Cleetus, I mean, I've always heard people say DEGA, but the way that Cleetus and all those motherfuckers say DEGA, I'm like stuck saying DEGA, 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 baby. That's the only way I can say it now. But Tyler, we had an O'Reilly Series race this weekend. Let's get into that talk. And we had a pretty gnarly incident before we even really got started with this thing with Carson Kvapil. Carson Kvapil went tumbling and flipping over. I couldn't believe personally what I was seeing. I thought Talladega was next week, and it turned out for Carson it was this past weekend, because he had a Talladega sort of wreck, a scary wreck with flipping and tumbling over. Ended up landing on his lid. It took him a couple of minutes for them to get the car flipped over and him to get out of the car. Luckily, Carson was 100% okay. I don't even know if he has any bruises or anything, because once he got out of that car, he seemed 100% fine, and even gave a really great interview after the race, I'd say as well. One person that I'd say that ended up getting caught up in this, which was very unfortunate, was Parker Retzlaff. We've talked very highly about Parker Retzlaff over these last couple of weeks, last couple of months. We're all big fans of Parker Retzlaff, and he got caught up in this incident early on in the race, and probably would have had another top 10, maybe even a top 5 run, because his teammate Anthony Alfredo Fast Pasta actually had really great speed throughout the day. So who knows what could have happened with him. But Tyler, what were your thoughts on this just very early incident? I heard you talking. We made the first recording. You were comparing this to a Travis Kvapil incident that we actually had about pretty much exactly 25 years ago, really. But Tyler, what were your thoughts on this incident? Plus, before I get to you, I do think this was mainly William Byron's fault in this incident. But what are your thoughts on all that?
It was, in my opinion, it was definitely Byron's fault. I mean, it was way too early in the race to be going that hard, way too early. But besides that point, yeah, no, that wreck was gnarly. It reminded me a lot like his dad back in 2001, back when his dad was driving the 21, and it ends up on his lid just like that. And it was a brutal wreck. It was definitely way worse back in the day. I mean, safety precautions have changed dramatically since
For
then,
sure.
but it was definitely comparable. It's crazy to see both the two, I mean, father and son getting a wreck so comparable like that. It's always scary when you see that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a gnarly wreck from no matter what way you really look at it. It's a gnarly wreck for Talladega or Daytona, and it's definitely a gnarly wreck for Kansas. I just don't usually expect to see wrecks like that at like a mile and a half or a mile long track. I don't usually expect to see incidents like that. So it definitely caught me off guard, especially right when I'm sitting down to watch the race. Like right when I'm sitting down to watch the race, we already have a car in the air. I couldn't believe it. Carson Kvapil got taken out of this race early. I was just talking about Parker Retzlaff's consistency. Corey Day has been very consistent as of late. But right along with them is Carson Kvapil, and also his teammate Sammy Smith, I'd actually probably put in there as well, have been very consistent over the last month or two, and the day didn't turn out the way that Kvapil wanted it to. And he got back in the one car, fresh off the one car, winning at Bristol with Connor Zilic, and just no luck for Carson Kvapil in this event. Unfortunately, got taken out way early on in this event. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about this wreck with Carson Kvapil at the very beginning of the race at Kansas in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right, let's get to the actual race itself. Now that we got the big wreck out of the way, the driver that was dominant of the day was probably Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones, anytime we go to Kansas, anytime we go to Darlington, he just kicks all sorts of ass. I don't know what it is about Brandon Jones, but when he's really good at a racetrack, he lets you know about it. Kind of reminds me almost a little bit of like what Austin Dillon does in the Cup Series sometimes, except Brandon Jones does better on a week-to-week basis, I would say. But every once in a while, Austin Dillon just comes out and just has a hell of a race. Lately, it's been Richmond over the last couple of seasons. I remember that race he had at, I think it was Texas. He's every once in a while just pops out and has a dominating race. But Brandon Jones is very consistent with it at Darlington and Kansas. Anytime we go to Darlington or Kansas, I would expect him to compete for the win, and that's what he was doing all day. Didn't end up getting the win. Actually ended up being one of his Joe Gibbs Racing teammates, Taylor Gray. I'll talk about him more in a second. But I do feel like the story of the day was Sheldon Creed. Started at the back of the pack, had to drive to the front, got up to the top 15 very quickly. I felt like he had the best car in this race. Just things at the end of this race just didn't turn out the way that he wanted it to when it came to a strategy perspective. And it seemed like, just to get back to Taylor Gray, it just really seemed like Taylor Gray just had an amazing car once he got into clean air. I do think Taylor Gray had a top 3, top 5 car for sure. Once he got in that clean air, though, he was just dominant at the end of this race. Took over in the last stage and just didn't really look back. Not anything crazy, not anything super special. But once he got the lead, it was old Taylor Gray from there on out. And Taylor Gray ends up getting his second career win. Of course, he won at Martinsville, getting another win in his career. So good for Taylor Gray, good for Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs, owner of that car. Tyler, what were your overall thoughts on the race we had at Kansas in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series? And was there anything that really stood out to you in this event?
It was a decent race. I mean, there wasn't anything to jump up and down on the couch about, really. But if you were watching Sheldon, man, you were watching one hell of a race, that's for sure. Watch that guy go from the back to the front like he did was crazy. I really feel like he would have dominated the race a lot more if he wouldn't have had to start so far back.
Yeah, I agree. I think he probably would have won this race if he didn't start in the back. If we started in the top 10, top 15, he probably would have won this race because he was just so freaking fast. At the beginning of this race, we were like 20, 30 laps in, and he was already trying to get into the top 20. Like, he just had fantastic speed all day. I'm really questioning on what's going on with Mayer because it seems like they kind of flip-flopped in speed because now Mayer is not necessarily slow, but he's slower than his teammate right now, and it was kind of flip-flopped last season where Sam Mayer was winning races and Sheldon was not necessarily off the pace, but he was like a top 10 guy on most weeks, occasionally a top 5 guy. Now I feel like that's Mayer, while Sheldon's competing for the win every week at this point, which is very cool to see. Then your boy Justin Allgaier, honestly, a quiet day, still had a great day as well. Just wasn't competing for the victory. And honestly, William Byron was kind of just there, to be honest. William Byron was just there. He caused Carson Kvapil to flip over a couple times, then he left with a top 10 finish. That was William Byron's story of the day. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race at Kansas Speedway? All right, now let's move on to the Cup Series part of this discussion because we did, of course, have the NASCAR Cup Series there this past weekend, the Advent Health 400 this past weekend. And what are my thoughts overall on the race itself? I feel like I'm in the minority, and I'm very surprised that I am in the minority on this. I overall thought it was a great race. I thought it was a great race. I don't think it was the best race we've ever seen at Kansas, especially in this generation of car. This generation of car is really shitty at a lot of tracks, but Kansas is one of those places where it's pretty amazing. And I think that might be why some people might have been upset with the way it ended up going, because it wasn't quite like those races. But the reason why I really liked the race, we saw a good amount of passing. I would agree with the fact that we didn't see as much passing this past Sunday as we have seen at Kansas over the last couple of seasons. I will agree with that for sure. But I was a big fan of there actually being passing. We had a lot of tire fall off, which created a lot of strategy throughout the day. A lot of green flag pit stop strategy, which I'm also very fond of. In my opinion, you don't need wrecks to make it a good race. I think everybody has different opinions on that. Like you need some wrecks throughout the day to make it a good race. We did have one wreck at the very end of this thing, which we'll talk about here in a second. Thanks a lot, Cody Ware. We'll talk about that here in a second. But overall, I really liked this race. Obviously, it wasn't a barn burner per se. It wasn't a race that's going to bring in a shitload of new fans. But for someone that just appreciates seeing green flag pit stop strategy, like seeing a lot of tire fall off, just like seeing great race. I thought it was a great race. I saw great racing throughout the day. Obviously not perfect, but then looking at Jeff Gluck's poll, because I try to look out for his poll every week at this point to see what it says. And when I checked it, it said 50-50. It said 50-50 right down the middle. Who knows if we don't get that if we don't get that caution at the end? Maybe it ends up being 60-40 yes or 40-60 no. I do feel like a lot of people are voting no because Tyler Reddick won the race. I do feel like a lot of people are voting yes, though, also because there was a caution at the end of this race, and we had a fantastic finish. A fantastic finish. And Kyle Larson hasn't won in over a year. In my opinion, he choked that finish, in my opinion. Just how Denny kind of choked that finish in the fall last year by almost wrecking himself and Bubba Wallace. And I would like to give a little shout out to one of my favorite teams, Trackhouse. Get it together. What the hell is going on with Trackhouse? What the fuck is going on with Trackhouse? Fucking Ross Chastain's running outside the top 30 most of the day. Ross Chastain won this race like 2 years ago. What is going on? But Tyler, what were your thoughts on the race as a whole, and anything really stand out to you in the event?
So the end of Sunday, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty bummed. I was like, this is not that great of a race, but it wasn't that bad of a race, right? It just wasn't the Kansas we've been given the last couple of years, and us NASCAR fans have a tendency to get used to things and get spoiled. So when something isn't the way it used to be, we don't usually react well to that, unfortunately.
Which is why we react the way we do when it comes to short tracks and super speedways, because we're accustomed to good
Yep.
racing.
We're accustomed to good racing. So, I mean, it's not that Sunday was bad racing, right? It just wasn't Kansas we've been getting. And Kansas has been putting out the best race we could find all year long. So I think a lot of us strapped in and expected to see the best race we've seen all year long. And it really just wasn't that. I mean, we've had some really good racing this year, too. So that probably might be part of it. I mean, that's bringing Kansas back down to everybody else's level a little bit more. I mean, not everybody is
Yeah.
so bad. So, I mean, the excitement that we had for Kansas, I think, is probably what dampened the race a little bit. But at the end of the day, it was a decent race. I mean, the caution at the end definitely threw a wrench into it. Personally, I wasn't a fan of it.
I agree.
I don't. It was what it is, but I wasn't. Wasn't necessary. The flag racing, I think, was worth it. And then, like everybody else, I mean, it's like 2007 all over again. And Jimmy Johnson, everybody's gonna be mad about it. It's just what it is. I'm not happy about it either. But Tyler Reddick is on one, and we're just gonna have to strap in and deal with that.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us right into our second part of that, and it's the finish of this race, because there wasn't a single wreck, a single spin out, there wasn't anything all day that really deserved any sort of caution up until less than a lap and a half to go, like a lap and a quarter to go. I think Denny Hamlin was in 3 and 4 when the caution came out. There was a spun out race car in the middle of the racetrack, and who would have thought? It's Cody Ware. Who would have thought? I do want to give Cody Ware at least a little bit of an excuse, because I did hear that he was on 65 plus lap old tires, and he was just really trying to nurse it to get to the end of this thing. So his tires recording, and that was the reason why he ended up spinning out. His tires recording on the racetrack, because we saw that in practice, we saw that in the race, we saw the corded tires with the way the rubber rips off these tires. At this point, with the way the tires are nowadays because of all the environmental rules and being eco-friendly and all that stuff. I understand why we're doing all that stuff for sure, but with this generation of Goodyear tires, I guess you could say, instead of them just popping like back in the day when you lose a tire, you would just be running the fastest lap. You just ran all day, and then the very next corner, you're in the fucking wall because your tire just popped. Nowadays, with NASCAR, when it comes to these tires, you pretty much get let known 5 or 10 laps before your tire pops that it's going down because it begins to cord and it makes the car feel differently. It has the car jump around. It usually has the car feeling a little bit looser. That's why we saw Cleetus struggle so hardly at the Rock at the end of that thing, is because his tires were cording and he had no idea what he was feeling or what he was dealing with at the end of that race and just wanted to make it to the finish. And I think we saw something very similar to what Cleetus was dealing with at the Rock here with Cody Ware at the end of this race. So I do want to give him a slight excuse for that. But man, Cody, you need to work on your timing, man. You could have waited a little bit. And Denny couldn't get the win. I felt like Denny had the dominant car. I feel like Denny should have won the race. I did hear how upset Denny was at the end of this race. I do like Michael Jordan coming over there because Michael Jordan is the king of all sports at talking shit. Well, Denny is the king of talking shit when it comes to NASCAR. So Michael Jordan seemed like he wanted to console Denny a little bit, but at the same time rub it in his face a little bit at the same time. And the video is going viral. Some of the ways really good, but some of the ways, and they're trying to cancel MJ again as well, of course, because MJ put his hand on Denny's neck at the end of the race, so everybody's trying to cancel Michael Jordan again. That's the new thing now. We're just going to cancel Michael Jordan anytime he does anything. Apparently, we just want to scare him away. Apparently, which that's a whole different discussion, I would say. But overall, the end of this race, it definitely disappointed me. I said a little bit earlier, you don't need wrecks to have a good race. And I think it would have been a great race if we just finished without any wrecks, which is kind of a weird thing to say because we saw everything we saw all day. I think we would have had a good race if it just finished under green right there. We ended up getting a caution at the end of this thing. Came down to strategy at the end of this thing. And Tyler Reddick ended up coming out as the victor. Gets his 5th win on the season. Overall, I like Tyler Reddick. You were just talking about a second ago, Tyler, how a lot of people were reacting the same way when Jimmy Johnson was winning all these races. Oh, he's cheating. Oh, he's doing that. He's doing this, doing that. And it's like, motherfucker, if he's cheating, why isn't Riley Herbst winning races? Why isn't Bubba Wallace winning races? Why is Front Row Motorsports just now finding speed? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. If you're going to cheat, Dale Jr. would have 7 championships. If you were a cheater, if NASCAR were cheating, Dale Jr. would have 7 championships. He'd probably still be racing. Who knows? Like, I don't know. I don't like all the conspiracy theories when it comes to Reddick. I just think Reddick's a badass driver. And then obviously at the same time, 2311 Racing as a race team have obviously hit on something because now Bubba Wallace is consistently in the top 10, top 5. Riley Herbst is even running well. He was running top 15, top 20 throughout most of the day. Corey Heim ended up getting a top 15 finish, so really good on Corey Heim as well, making a start for 2311 this past weekend. But when it comes to the end of this race, and then Tyler Reddick getting his 5th victory on the season, how do we feel about all that, Tyler?
I mean, I'm not happy about it by any means, but like, what are we gonna do about it, right? Like, NASCAR's not cheating. They didn't sue NASCAR to win. Like, none of that happened. If that was a thing, then Hendrick would have never stopped winning. Like, Hendrick would have
Facts.
won every championship from here to eternity if that was a thing, right? Obviously, it's not. Hendrick's not winning championships anymore. Well, he is, but not to the degree that he was with Jimmy. So, and I don't think he ever will again to that degree. I mean, NASCAR's just different now. This Tyler thing is absolutely insane. He's on one, and if they are, finding a way, much like Kyle Busch and all them did, I think it was like 2022 when they were finding a way when Kyle got those 3 wins or whatever, and then they started just really strutting them down on inspections. So there might be something in the gray area they found, but guess what? It's not illegal. A gray area isn't illegal. It's not illegal until we make it illegal, right? So if they have
Exactly.
found something that has come to their advantage, then that's racing. That's part of all of this. As much as it sucks for the rest of us that really does not want to see that 45 finish first, me specifically, I said at the beginning of the year he ain't going to win one race, let alone five. So anybody wants to, jump up and down and say they're cheating, I'd have all the rights to do it, but I'm not going to say that because that's not racing. They found a gray area for sure. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I am not smart enough to even try to make a claim of anything I know, but whatever they've done, I hope that they ride that until they can't no more because they have figured something out.
Yeah, they definitely have figured something out. And you're bringing up Kyle Busch. Yeah, that's a comparable. That's a comparable thing because Kyle Busch found something at RCR. They were in a gray area, found good speed, and once NASCAR decided to make something like that illegal, then Kyle Busch stopped winning races. He hasn't been very competitive since. So I do think 2311 have found something, whether that's in the gray area or not. They have obviously found something. And the thing is, the fact that they have found something, that means Joe Gibbs Racing have seen what they found because they share information. It's not just the Joe Gibbs Racing information coming in from 2311 and 2311 doesn't send any information back. They share all of that information. They share how they set up their cars and all this and that. So the smart people over at Joe Gibbs Racing would have figured out what sort of adjustment is helping Reddick potentially win these races. And we're 9 races in and they haven't figured that out yet. So it must be some really good setup. Plus, in my opinion, I've said this more than a dozen times, Tyler Reddick is one of the top 3 most talented, just pure, raw, talented drivers in our sport. I have it as Larson, Bell, Reddick. That's the top 3. It's very easy for me. That's the top 3 most talented drivers in our sport right now. We could throw those guys into any car, and it's not going to take them too long to find success. And I think Zilich will be there eventually. He'll be in that conversation. Still has some work to do in the
There's a
NASCAR Cup
reason
Series.
why Tyler Sorry, there's a reason why Tyler got back-to-back Xfinity championships. That doesn't just happen.
In two different race teams. Some people forget that
Two different race teams.
for Junior Motorsports and for Richard Childress Racing. He went from one team to the next and won championships. He's the one that kind of he didn't bring back RCR, I would say, but he made RCR relevant again when he was there because he was winning races. He won the one and only race at Road America. Love you, Tyler. Love you, Road America. Like, we love that, Just, I don't know. I don't like all the tinfoil hats that people have on for that. I just love seeing Tyler Reddick win, mainly because I just think it's good for our sport. I think there does come a certain point. I think we are approaching that point where if you win too much, then you might be bringing in new people, but then you're having the people that watch every week maybe not watch as much because there's going to be like, oh, Tyler Reddick's going to win this week. So I do understand that. I do understand that. I think we are definitely approaching that point. Like if Tyler Reddick wins like 10 out of the first 20 races, that might be a problem. I think that would be a problem for sure. But I like Reddick winning races right now at the beginning of the season, especially with the way these last couple of weeks have gone. They haven't been the greatest races. I thought this week was a good race. Plus, we had the attention of the overall pop culture zeitgeist because once again, well, most of these people don't say that Tyler Reddick won the race. They say Michael Jordan won the race, but still, that still gives us attention. Like people are still talking about us, and I just, with the way the viewership is, with the way everything is right now, we need it. We need to be talked about in pop culture in general, not just in our little bubble. Like in our little bubble, we obviously want certain guys to win. Like I think a lot of us, obviously myself, because I'm a big Kyle Busch fan, like we want to see Kyle Busch go to victory lane. Us in our little bubble, we want Connor Zilich to go to victory lane. We want some of these up and comers to go to victory lane. We want Ross Chastain to finally win with Busch on the car. We want to see some of these things happen as NASCAR fans. But people outside of our sphere are going to be like, well, did Michael Jordan win today? Oh, Michael Jordan won? That's awesome. Like that's kind of the thing right now. And we need to find a way to bring in these fans. And I think Tyler Reddick is doing a really good job of doing that. One thing I do want to see from Tyler Reddick that we haven't really seen too much of, and I think he has a great personality, and I don't think he's like super shy or anything, or doesn't or wants to keep to himself like Chase Elliott, for example. I don't think he's kind of like a Chase Elliott. I do think he wants his personality out there. I do think that he likes the attention, obviously, to a certain degree. Not like maybe like a Jeff Gordon or a Dale Jr. or something like that, but likes the attention to a certain degree. I think we need to put Reddick out there more, man. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Tyler, but I really think we should put Reddick out there more. He needs to be on talk shows and doing these things. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but we need promote. I know you've been seeing the viewership lately, Tyler. Like, we need some attention, and having Tyler Reddick talk about his wins, talk about what it's like to work for Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin and stuff like that. I think that could do a lot for a sport. What do you think about that, Tyler?
I think all these drivers need to get out there more.
Oh,
I
for
think it
sure.
needs to like absolutely all these drivers need to get out there more, but Tyler, yeah, absolutely needs to get out there more specifically because he's the one working hand in hand with Michael. Like Denny being Michael Jordan's partner and being racing is cool and all, but the real story is Tyler winning these races directly for Michael Jordan, right? And all the things that Michael Jordan's doing for Tyler. Like he's gotten all kinds of shoe sponsorships, all kinds of things that are going directly to him that he can be talking about and making a big deal about that brings bigger other aspects into NASCAR, and we're just not seeing that. So we really need him to get out there more. We really need all these drivers to get out there more. I mean, it's unfortunate that the most well-known driver you see out there doing anything is Noah Gragson. Like, love him to death, and I love that he does that for us, but he's a 30th place driver. Why don't we have anybody in the top 15 doing any of this?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to see all the drivers out there more. I really respect what Gregson does, even especially after seeing the full speed on what's it called, Amazon. Like, he's clearly going through a lot mentally, and even after getting a bad finish, he still goes out there and does whatever he needs to do to either get sponsorship for himself and his race team, or just help NASCAR out with promotion, whatever it is. He's your man. He's a man of the people, if you will. I really like what Noah Gragson does, and some of these other drivers like Ryan Preece. Some of these other drivers do a decent amount to help promote the sport and stuff like that, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, we need two things. We need Tyler Reddick out there more promoting our sport, and also Tyler, I want your thoughts on this real quick as well. Tyler Reddick deserves a signature Jordan shoe. He deserves it. I think he's earned it. Wouldn't you say?
100%. They need to give him a shoe design that matches the car.
Something like that, because there's a lot of
They
athletes out there that have Jordan brand shoes. Continue.
And they've already done a couple of different like Jordan shoe style cars or whatever, so it's not like it's out of brand for them. So like it falls right into their brand, and you might as well make your driver like something part of that brand. I mean, you have all these other people that are huge in that brand. Make your driver one of the biggest guys.
Yeah, a lot of Jordan athletes have their own signature shoes, and he's an athlete. Fuck you, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith said today that NASCAR drivers and golfers aren't athletes. Fuck Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah,
But
if I yell into a mic like him, am I an announcer too, or whatever the hell he wants to call himself?
yeah, I don't like Stephen A. at all. I used to like him. Then he just does whatever gets him attention
Now
at
he's a
this point.
I say now he's a politician or whatever the hell he is
Yeah, he's
too.
trying he's trying to be a politician. I don't like Stephen A. at all. Not a fan of him. But he's an athlete. Tyler Reddick's an athlete, and he's a very successful Jordan brand athlete at this point. He's ran the Jordan car a bunch of times. I think he deserves a signature shoe. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Tyler Reddick getting the victory? How do you feel about the finish of that race? And how do you feel about the little extracurricular stuff we talked about when it comes to Tyler Reddick just getting out in front of the camera, out in front of the people more? Plus, do you think Tyler Reddick deserves a signature shoe from Jordan? I think he has more than earned it at this point. Daytona 500 champion, you know damn well he deserves it. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right. Let's move on to our news topics, because we actually have a couple of news topics to go over this week. Not every week we have news topics, or like at least important news topics to really talk about. But we do have, I'd say, two news topics to talk about, and then the other thing is kind of more drama to talk about. I would say some off the track drama. I would say between two of my favorite drivers, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. I guess we'll start with that because I already kind of brought it up. I guess we'll start with that, with Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin having the drama that they've had over the last week. I would say at this point, ever since the most recent episode of Actions Detrimental came out, Kyle Busch doesn't seem too happy about it. Just to give you some context, Denny Hamlin on his podcast over the last couple of weeks, last month, I would say maybe even, and Denny Hamlin's no different from anybody else that has a podcast, a NASCAR podcast. Like Door Bumper Clear, I've been discussing the same things. A lot of these people like Break Hard, Eric, E-Step, all these people are really kind of talking about the same things over the last month when it comes to Kyle Busch, that he's clearly struggling, whether that's him, the car, or whatnot. He's clearly struggling. He's clearly having a difficult time racing right now, and Denny Hamlin's making comments on that. He even said in the podcast, I cannot hold his helmet for what Kyle Busch can do in a race car compared to Denny. Denny Hamlin thinks that Kyle Busch is a lot better of a driver than he is. So that's why Denny is so conflicted on his podcast, but he has to talk about it, you know? He has to talk about it. He says that Kyle Busch is obviously struggling right now. He's saying that Kyle Busch hasn't gotten the handle on this car. He's saying that Richard Childress Racing is struggling as a whole right now. He does briefly mention that his teammate seems to outperform him from time to time, but I think Austin Dillon's also gotten a better handle on this car than Kyle Busch potentially. Who knows on why we've seen that so far this season. But I think Kyle Busch got really upset. Kyle Busch, I forget who the interview is with. I still haven't watched the interview as a whole, but I have seen some clips. He does have a big interview that came out recently, and I did watch his interview with, I think, Bob Pockrass as well. He seems very upset with Denny Hamlin's comments that he had made, saying, because he pretty much said he'll make him he will be a thorn in his side, is pretty much what he said in that Bob Pockrass interview. He said in the other interview that I was referencing before that I haven't seen in full. I'll admit that I haven't seen this other interview in full, but he was saying things like Denny's been running his mouth over the last month, saying that I'm a washed up driver and this and that. And what I take from all of that, me personally, I think either one of two things is really going on. There's either somebody in Kyle Busch's ear just telling him all the negative things about what Denny is saying, or B, he's just on social media scrolling and he sees a clip from the show, and obviously you're going to take the clip from obviously they're going to clip out parts of the show that are more juicy, that get more attention. And Denny complimenting Kyle Busch is going to get less attention than Denny Hamlin not complimenting Kyle Busch. So Kyle Busch is taking whatever one of those two things it is. Kyle Busch is taking what Denny Hamlin has said about him this season really to heart. He's really taking it to heart. He feels like that Denny Hamlin is just talking a lot of shit about him. And this comes from Kyle Busch fan. Kyle Busch is my favorite driver. He's been my favorite driver for 20 years now. He's been my favorite driver. That's quite crazy to say that he's been my favorite driver for 20 years. But he hasn't listened. Oh, I hit the mic. He's not listening to the podcast. He's showed me with the way he has reacted to what Denny has said that he has not listened to one of Denny Hamlin's podcasts in full. Because if he did, he wouldn't be making the comments that he's making right now. Because Denny has been very complimentary of Kyle. He's been very complimentary of the way he is as a racer. He said that he can't hold Kyle Busch's helmet. He thinks that's Kyle Busch is that great of a driver. He's complimenting how much he's learned from Kyle Busch. He even said on last week's episode that Denny Hamlin wouldn't be as good as he is on intermediate tracks without Kyle Busch. So he's been very, very complimentary on Kyle Busch. That's why he's been so torn about the comments. Because when you see his podcast and him make these comments about Kyle Busch, he almost cringes talking about it because he doesn't want to talk about it. But he has to talk about it. He has a podcast. Literally, everybody's talking about it. Like, Denny Hamlin isn't the only person talking about it. I feel like the reason that Kyle Busch got so upset about it because he looks at Denny as a friend. He looks at Denny as a friend. And then also in this interview, he said, the interview that I haven't seen in full, he said in that interview that he doesn't have any friends in the Cup Series. Doesn't have any NASCAR friends. Sounds a lot like Carson Hocevar. So I feel like he just got really hurt by Denny Hamlin's comments and just didn't listen to the podcast. Either had someone in his ear saying that Denny's talking shit, or he watched a clip or two and was like, damn, Denny's just talking shit about me, and didn't listen to the whole episode. Just listened to a 30-second clip and was like, oh, that's that. Denny Hamlin thinks I'm washed up. And I don't know. I don't really like the way that Kyle's thinking about that right now. Honestly, that should be the last thing he should be concerned about right now. He should be going out there winning races, because that's what we know about Kyle Busch. He should be out there winning races. And right now he's focused on what Denny Hamlin said on his fucking podcast. I'm big thumbs down for me when it comes to this. And I've been very open. Like I said, a huge Kyle Busch fan. Also, I am a Denny fan as well. But I'm going to have to 100% side with Denny on this one, because right now Kyle Busch is creating drama out of nothing, in my opinion. And I even saw it in the race, because at one point he held up Denny Hamlin. I remember him holding up Denny Hamlin in that last stage. I forget how many laps there was left, but he went out of his way to crowd Denny Hamlin at the bottom of the track and not let him pass very easily. So he was obviously not very happy with what Denny had to say. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on all this? Because I might be too close to the fire on this one, being a Kyle Busch super fan, and also considering myself probably a Denny Hamlin super fan at this point as well. I might be too close to the fire on this one. But how do you feel about all this, with Kyle Busch being upset with what Denny Hamlin said on his podcast?
Man, it's hard with those two boys, because those two boys, I can
Or
say for the
fiery?
last 20 years, I have not been the biggest fan of. So it's hard, right? I mean, you have the last two standing veterans of the sport going head to head about some petty bullshit. And it's sad because both of those boys should be in the top equipment still fighting head to head, and they're just not. Like, Kyle's equipment is just crap right now, and it's unfortunate, but it's just what it is. And we all know that if you were to put Kyle in the 11, he'd be doing just as good as Denny is right now.
I
So
don't think he
like,
would, but
it's
continue.
hard. You don't think so?
No,
Damn,
he would
that's
not.
sad. That's sad. In my opinion, I think he would be, but maybe not as good, because Denny is in his prime right now. Denny's got the Brady effect for sure. I mean, he's hitting those prime years at the very end of his career, and it's very rare that you see that. But I don't know. I know for sure that Kyle can at least hold his own when it comes to Denny, right? So this whole thing is being blown out of proportion. Kyle needs to chill out a little bit. I think his frustrations with the car, his frustrations with everybody talking shit, and now it being somebody like you said that he cares about, and he's not really like listening to anything that's coming out. It's more like, how dare you even say anything at all? I feel like is where Kyle's at. So it's just, I don't know. He's Kyle Busch. He's gonna be mad. He's gonna be hot-headed about it, and he's probably gonna get over it eventually. Like, it's just, it's who he is. And Denny's not gonna shut the fuck up. That's who Denny is. So it's just, it is what it is, and those two boys will have at it until they hang him up.
Yeah. Yeah, they're two fiery individuals. And yeah, like I said before, I do think Kyle Busch was just honestly hurt. I think he was just hurt by what Denny had to say. It's like, damn, like these spotters over on Door Bumper Clear are saying these things about me, but I don't care about their opinion. But you're my competitor. You're my former teammate. You're a friend. Hell, what the hell? Like, I think that was Kyle Busch's reaction. Like, I think he was just hurt. I think he was just really badly hurt that Denny is one of those people calling out what he's, in this case, not doing, and that's winning races and stuff like that. And you did bring up something that I did forget to bring up when you were talking there. I think Kyle Busch did say it, that if he was in the 11 car, he'd be doing well. He'd be doing well too. I do think that Kyle Busch would be doing well. I think he potentially would win a couple races a year, maybe. But other than that, I don't think he's going to be a championship contender in that car, in that Joe Gibbs Racing car right now. I just don't. I don't see it. The main reason why I say that, because before he left Joe Gibbs Racing, it was the beginning of the next gen era, and he wasn't very good. He didn't do very well for Joe Gibbs Racing in that last year. He had a couple of moments here and there. He had a couple of moments in that last year with Joe Gibbs Racing, but overall just didn't really perform. He just hasn't been able to find it in this car yet. And the fact that he is getting outperformed by Austin Dillon as much as he has been this year, like, look at on Sunday, Austin Dillon got like what, 15th or 16th, something like that. He finished on the lead lap. Kyle Busch finished 4 laps down on speed. On speed. Like, that is bad. He didn't have damage. I think he had a couple issues on pit road, but he didn't have like a speeding penalty or anything like that. I think he was just, if I remember correctly, he was just off strategy. He was just a little bit off strategy with some of these other drivers. Like, he had a different pit strategy than a lot of these other drivers and ended up putting him back 4 laps down while his teammate's on the lead lap, for Pete's sake. I don't know what to make of all this. I do think that Kyle Busch really struggles with this car. I do think he needs more practice. He's just one of those drivers that needs more practice. He really needs to have. I compare him a lot to Joey Logano, even though those two hate each other. They're so similar. They are so similar with the way they race, because both of them are quite aggressive on the racetrack. But I think the thing that's more glaring for me when it comes to those two drivers in particular, if they don't have the perfect race car, like the race car needs to match up to their driving ability perfect. If it doesn't, you're probably going to be out of luck. At least in the Cup Series. Like other series, that's different. But in the Cup Series, if you, because you see it with Logano. If Logano has a perfect car, he's top 5. If he doesn't, he's 30th, 25th, something like that. He's in the back. Penske raced like shit this weekend too. I forgot to mention that earlier. They raced like shit this weekend as well. They were awful. But yeah, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin are at odds ends right now. They're at each other. Well, I don't even think they're at each other's neck. I think Denny is just there, and Kyle Busch is like, shut your fucking mouth, pretty much, you know? I don't know. I don't agree with the way Kyle Busch reacted. I think Kyle Busch needs to focus on other things and not focus on Denny Hamlin talking on his podcast. And if he is going to focus on Denny Hamlin talking on his podcast, he probably should listen to the whole episode before he opens his mouth. But that's just my opinion as a Kyle Busch superfan. And knowing Kyle Busch, you will only see that little snippet that I just said and would have not heard anything else that I said. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this rivalry, I guess you could say, between Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin? Kyle Busch is going to hate me, man. He hates me now. All right, let's get into our next topic. A little bit of a smaller news topic, but I do feel like we do have to talk about it because the people love themselves some Cleetus McFarland. He has said previously that with him not being able to race Talladega in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, that it was probably going to be quite a while till you see him in a car. Like, you might not even see him in a car for the rest of the season because just the way his schedule lines up with everything he does with his YouTube and all the events he does at the Freedom Factory. He just had the Freedom 500, I think, last week or the week before. I think it was Brian Deegan that ended up winning that race, so congratulations to Brian Deegan. Cleetus McFarland is always very, very busy, and he found time in his schedule for Nashville. He's going to be racing at the Nashville Super Speedway in the O'Reilly Series, racing the Tommy's Express Car Wash Chevrolet number 33 for Richard Childress Racing. I'm personally really glad that we're going to see him back out there again at Nashville. Nashville is below a 1.5-mile track. That's why he's able to race it. It's technically 1 1/3 miles, so that was the biggest track that I think he's allowed to race on in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. They were able to make that work with the Nashville Super Speedway and him coming up just in a couple weeks. Nashville isn't all that far away, so I think it's very cool that he's going to be able to attempt this race. I do think Nashville is a very difficult racetrack. It's obviously not The Rock. The Rock is the cream of the crop. That might be the hardest racetrack on the schedule. But Nashville, also a very difficult racetrack, a very different racetrack. The way I always describe it, it's like Las Vegas and Dover had a baby, and that's what you get with Nashville Super Speedway. That's the best way I can describe it. It has the surface of a Dover, and then it has the track type, I guess you could say, a little shorter, obviously, as a Las Vegas. I think that'd be a good comparison. Maybe Kentucky. Kentucky might be a better comparison than Las Vegas, but nonetheless, he will be making his second O'Reilly Auto Parts Series start in Nashville in a couple of weeks. And I know Nashville is going to be very hyped about that. It's probably a good place for him to make another start just with the way he is and the way he interacts with fans. Nashville is a great place for fans. It's a great place to party and just have a great time. So it's going to be cool seeing him out there for the O'Reilly Series race. I'm not sure if ARCA's racing that weekend, but I would assume that's probably why he was able to find that in his schedule, because he's probably latching it on to his ARCA Menard Series race that he probably has that weekend as well. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on we're going to get more cleat? We're going to get some Cleetus McFarland at Nashville in a little bit over a month. I think the race is at the beginning of June. So what are your thoughts about Cleetus McFarland racing the Nashville Super Speedway?
And it's important. We need him behind the wheel and on the track. Like, he can't just pick up these random great races. Like, if he really wants to do well, we need him behind the wheel. So I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see it too. The more we get of Cleetus behind the wheel, the better it is. He's gonna, because I think he has it. I don't think he's gonna be a Cup Series full timer or anything like that, but I could see him if he continues doing what he's doing a little hiccup there. If he continues doing what he's been doing as of late, I could see him potentially competing for wins in different series at some point. Maybe not at a speedway per se, but maybe a short track. Obviously the super speedways, especially if he's racing for RCR, he very well could compete for wins with super speedways and stuff like that. But it's great for our sport. It's great for Cleetus to get more experience. And I'm excited to see what he's able to do in Nashville. Maybe he'll break a guitar. Maybe he'll smash a guitar. He might not win the race, but they might give out an extra guitar for Cleetus. Maybe. Who knows? That would be a sight to see. Have his sleeves get ripped off and then just slam the guitar on the front straightaway or something. That'd be crazy. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Cleetus McFarland racing at the Nashville Super Speedway for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series here in a couple of weeks? All right. The last news topic that we have, and then, of course, we'll give a slight preview to Talladega Super Speedway. Me and Tyler will give our thoughts on Talladega Super Speedway. Plus, we will go through our weekly picks. Before we do that, we do have another story to talk about here. And we've discussed this a couple of times over the last, year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point, that NASCAR have been looking into developing an electric vehicle. They actually unveiled the electric vehicle last year as well, so they already have a vehicle ready for this series. But the discussion has always been that they would probably introduce a new series. Like, it would be a whole new series, a fourth series for electric vehicles. I would compare it a lot to with the Formula 1 program. You got Formula 1, you got F2, F3, F4, and then, of course, you have Formula E, the electronic Formula Series. I always thought it was going to be something like that. At least that's how it's been described. But now it looks like that there has been discussions. Nothing is official. And I'm thinking with the way everybody is reacting, even Dale Earnhardt Jr., like a lot of people are reacting to this, that they're looking at having the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series car change into an electric vehicle body and it be an electric vehicle. So it would be essentially the O'Reilly Auto Parts EV series, I guess you could say. I think that would probably be what they would call it, as long as O'Reilly is still around, if they end up doing that. And I'm like two sides of the spectrum. Me personally, am I okay with an electric series? I'd say most NASCAR fans do not want to see an EV electric series. Me personally, as long as it doesn't take over one of our existing series, I'm perfectly fine with having a fourth series, because that just creates more racing, creates more opportunities for the drivers. This could potentially even help relationships with drivers and OEMs. I do think OEMs will do a lot more for this series compared to the other series at times, just because they're trying to develop the electronic vehicles and they want to be able to actually sell these EVs to customers. They'll probably be doing a lot of work to try to sell these EV electronic vehicles to people. So I could definitely see them putting a lot behind it so drivers can get more interactions with the OEMs and stuff like that. So overall, I think it would be a good thing to even add an EV series. But to turn the Busch Series, Nationwide Series, Xfinity Series, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, whatever you want to call it, turn that series into an EV series, I think is completely idiotic. I think you would lose a lot of your fan base. I think you'd lose a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams wouldn't want to be a part of that and back out. And then you're going to have a lot of new people come in and replace those teams that have nothing to do with NASCAR, that could be Formula One people, or I know the World Rallycross. They've been doing not the World Rallycross, but the Nitro Cross. Travis Pastrana's series. I know they do a lot of electronic stuff over there, so you might have like you'd have some more people join in and replace those people. But then it's at that point it's just a completely different series. It's a completely different series, and at that point, in my opinion, all the history that goes with the O'Reilly series would just cut off. In my opinion, at that point, if they would decide to do that. So that's why I'm all for them introducing a brand new series. And I do get some people's argument, because I have seen the argument made, well, this creates three different, completely different cars and helps the OEMs with selling cars, because then you have a truck, you have your normal street car with the Cup series, and then you have an electronic vehicle with the O'Reilly series. That gets them more selling points for each of their type of cars. So I do get the argument when it comes to the OEM perspective. But to change the whole entire look and feel of the O'Reilly series, and like I said, overnight, it's going to be a complete change of a series if we do this. And at the same time, we're already struggling when it comes to viewership and when it comes to sponsors, when it comes to money and all that stuff. This could potentially kill the series. It could potentially. I don't think that would happen. I think NASCAR and the OEMs would figure out a way to keep it going for the time being if it was slow to start with. But if it gets up to a slow enough start that first year, not enough people are participating, it's pretty much going to look potentially like ARCA did a couple of years ago when we were getting like 15 entries a week, 10 entries a week at some places, So I'm okay with having an electronic vehicle. I'm stumbling over my words here. I'm okay with having an electronic vehicle series, but not if it's going to replace the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. I'm not at all for that. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on this? Are you okay with having EVs in the sport? And you kind of feel like me, where EVs, if they're going to be there, have their own sort of series? Or are you okay with them replacing the O'Reilly cars? Or do you not want electronic vehicles at all? I think this is a pretty big talking point. What are your thoughts on all this with the EVs?
Well, personally, I'm not a fan of electric vehicles at all. I mean, I'm probably the biggest proponent of them, and I will stand on that for the rest of my life. But I understand that that's where the world's heading, right? So if NASCAR wants to start an EV program, start an EV series, do all of that, good on them. But let's not mess with the things that the current fan base loves. I think we've already learned that the hard way. So let's
Yeah.
not make that worse. I mean, all of us, when it comes to racing, we love to see some polarity to it. We love to see the new makers involved. I mean, EV series can bring in Tesla, can bring in Rivian, can bring in all kinds of other different brands that are out there that we probably don't even know exist at this point, right? So that's not a bad thing. Getting different money pools in NASCAR, getting different sponsorships, all of that's definitely a positive thing. But do that on its own accord and don't mess with the good things we have going, because it took a long time for NASCAR to get back to where it's at right now. And if you ask me, the O'Reilly series is the top one of all of them. It is the most entertaining series. It is the most watched series when it comes to my life, and most paid attention to. So I will be personally devastated if they mess with it, and I think the rest of the fan base feels the same way. So just start your separate EV series, go that route. We'll accept it for what it is. You have different training, different sponsorships, all of that can come through, and then just leave what we have alone. There's no reason to mess with all that.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I think it would just completely. I wouldn't necessarily say ruin the series, but I wouldn't be able to look like the series is just not going to be the same. It's not going to be at all the same. It's like if they came into the NFL and would be like, you know what? We're turning this into arena football. From now on, it's a 50-yard field. It's 50-yard field, indoors. You got walls. You can go flipping over the walls. That'd be cool, right? You can flip into a fan or something like that. Would that be entertaining? Yeah. But guess what? That's not the NFL. That's arena football. That's not the NFL. You know what I mean? I think that's probably a pretty good comparison there. But we do see electronic vehicles becoming a big part of motorsport. I've sat down and watched a couple of Formula E races. Honestly, they're not bad. They're not bad. It's not bad racing. At times, it can actually be very entertaining. I'm not a big fan of the way they sound. It's like me. It's like I don't like the sounds that they make. It's like scratching against the chalkboard. I'm not a big fan of the sounds these electronic vehicles make over in the Formula E, but it's the way the world is going. It's a different form of motorsport. That's why I'm okay with having the EV series, because you could bring in, like, I didn't even think about that when I was talking before, but yeah, I could bring in a bunch of new manufacturers as well, like a Tesla. Some of these manufacturers that specialize in electronic vehicles and stuff like that. You could really bring in a lot more manufacturers, and then if they're quite fond of the electronic vehicle series, maybe they'll decide to make the big investment and develop a big engine and stuff like that to go cup racing or truck racing or something like that. But to replace the O'Reilly series as a whole, I think would be a very grave mistake. I think it would be a huge mistake, especially with all the viewership that we've seen, all the viewership issues we've seen with the Cup Series over the last couple of weeks. The O'Reilly Series has gone up in viewership for the most part this year. It's actually looked really good with viewership. Truck Series, for the most part, has looked really good this year as well. But the Cup Series is where it's really, really struggling. And I'm not a fan of this. Like I said, I've seen both sides of the argument for sure. And I'm for an electronic vehicle series, but not to replace the O'Reilly series. But let us know your thoughts. We've talked long enough about this. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about about electronic vehicles potentially being the new vehicle of choice for the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, potentially to be known as the O'Reilly Auto Parts EV series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right, now that we're done talking about Kansas, we're done going through our news stories. Now it's time to preview Talladega a little bit. Now I will go through the weekend schedule, the weekend facts, and then, of course, talk a little bit about the weather. So starting with the Talladega weekend schedule, on Friday, April 24th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have O'Reilly Auto Parts Series qualifying on the CW app. Then we look ahead to Saturday, where it's an early session of Cup Series qualifying. Of course, no practice of being a super speedway. I still hate that. I think it's freaking stupid. But at 10:30 a.m., we have Cup Series qualifying on Prime Video. And then at 12:30 p.m., we have the Alabama Manufactured Housing 200 on Fox Sports 1. Of course, that's the ARCA Menard Series, where we will have Cleetus McFarland, a.k.a. Garrett Mitchell, plus Squirrel McNutt, a.k.a. George Siciliano, both in the field for that event. And then at 4 p.m., we do have the AG Pro 300, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race on the CW. And then we look ahead to Sunday, April 26th at 3 p.m. We have the Jack Links 500, the NASCAR Cup Series race, and that will be on Fox. And then we look at our weekend facts plus a little bit of weather. Of course, it's the Jack Links 500 at DEGA, and the stages end at lap 98 for stage 1, 143 for stage 2, and it's a 188 lap event. Of course, Talladega Super Speedway is located in Lincoln, Alabama. It is the largest oval or left turn track, whatever you want to call it, at 2.66 miles. And it is, of course, a super speedway. The track opened up in 1969, and the first Cup race on September 14th was won actually by Richard Brickhouse. A very crazy story. Drivers not wanting to participate in this race. Pretty much, they got drivers off the street to race in this race. I probably should do a video on that. It sounds quite interesting how the first race at Talladega went back in 1969. The active win leader, of course, is Brad Keselowski, also the host of Brad Keselowski's first win with that epic moment with Carl Edwards going up into the catch fence. Six-time winner, Brad Keselowski. Last year's winners, of course, in the spring, you had Austin Cindric, and in the fall, you had Chase Briscoe. The notable entries for the weekend, of course, no Truck Series this weekend. In the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, we have Tyler Ankrum making his first career O'Reilly Series start for Jordan Anderson Racing. And then we have Natalie Decker returning in the number 35 for Joey Gase. And then we look to the Cup Series as we have Jesse Love making a start for RCR in the number 33. We have Casey Mears in the number 62. And then we have Daniel Dye making his first Cup Series start in the number 78. And then let's look at the weekend weather report from DEGA. It looks like on Friday, we will probably be pretty good. We only have the O'Reilly Series qualifying, plus I think we have some ARCA stuff on Friday as well. It looks like it will be all good and clear. 84 degrees is the high. 60 degrees is the low, 5% chance of rain. But then on Saturday, it sounds like we could get some thunderstorms, 73% chance of rain throughout the day. The high is 79 degrees. The low is 55 degrees. I would usually try to predict what temperature it may be around race time. But with the thunderstorms, who knows what it could be. It could be 60-something degrees. It could be high 70s. It might even leak into the 80s. This forecast could change before the weekend. And then we look ahead to Sunday for the Cup Series race. Around race time, I'd expect it to be around 80 degrees. And right now it has a 21% chance of rain on Sunday. So we'll have to see if the rain ends up playing a factor at Talladega. All right, now that we've gone through the schedule, the facts, the weather for Talladega, for DEGA in Alabama, let's get into our thoughts about DEGA. I freaking love Talladega. It's at the top of my bucket list for tracks to go to, not just for the race, but also for the experience you get camping at that racetrack. It's a completely different experience. Some people call it the Mardi Gras of the South, even though Mardi Gras is in the South. That's what they call it. Is the Mardi Gras of NASCAR. And I really want to go experience what these people are experiencing in the Talladega infield. It just seems like a fantastic time. The racing has, for the most part, over my whole lifetime, been phenomenal. So I really just want to experience everything that Talladega brings, whether it's on the racetrack or off the racetrack. Of course, Talladega Super Speedway is kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why it is such a big party there, because there's nothing near that racetrack. It's just Talladega. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Talladega Super Speedway this weekend, and it's on the top of my bucket list. But then, of course, I have to, talk about how the racing has been in this car at Talladega and Daytona. It just hasn't produced the greatest racing. We're seeing a lot of fuel saving. I know next year they're looking at making the mandatory pit stops. We talked about that last week. And as I briefly just talked about a second ago, how they're changing the stages. They're changing it to 98 laps for the first stage and then 45 laps each for the last two stages. Those will end up being 40-lap stages roughly after they do the pace laps and stuff like that. And the racing there just hasn't been very great. You get the 4-wide, 3-wide racing at Talladega, but that's only when they're saving fuel. And when they're not saving fuel, it's just a single file line with pretty much everybody too scared to jump out, because the way these cars are, once you jump out of the draft, it's like a parachute. You're going straight to the back. You're going straight to the back. Going straight to the back anytime you jump out. So this generation of car in the Cup Series has really hurt not just the short tracks, but it's really hurt the super speedway racing as well. So I don't know what to expect from this weekend. I'm hoping that them changing up the stages like they have will help. I think it could help a little bit. I don't think it's the golden fix. I also don't think the mandatory 4-tire pit stops is also a golden fix. I don't think either of them are golden fixes, but they could help the racing a little bit. We'll have to see how it all works out. I would say just remove the stage breaks. That's just me personally, but they're not going to do that because TV said so. But Tyler, how do you feel about Talladega? Give me your thoughts on DEGA.
And I love DEGA. DEGA used to be one of my favorite races in the entire year, so I just wish they'd fix these cars. I mean, I know we've said it 1,000 times, and it's probably annoying, but I wish they'd fix these cars, because, man, I miss DEGA.
Yeah, DEGA just doesn't provide the same show as it used to in the Cup Series, at least. I still think it puts on great races in the Truck Series. As long as Austin Hill isn't dominating the entire race, I think it puts on a good show in the O'Reilly Series.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we're going to have that this weekend, so be ready. It's an Austin Hill race. It's a King of the Hill race. God damn it, Bobby. Like, we're going to be saying that this weekend.
God damn it, Bobby.
I'd rather have Austin Phil than Austin Hill out there winning races personally, but it is what it is. It is what it is. That's an inside joke for Austin Phil. None of y'all probably got that. Cory would get it. Cory would get it if he was here. But yeah, I'm just not really looking. I want to look forward to Talladega because I love DEGA, but honestly, I'm looking forward to every race this weekend except for the Cup Series. I'm just not really looking forward to it, but I'm hoping we get a good race. I'm really hoping we get a good race. I'm hoping that the stages at least help with the end of the race. I don't think it will help at all with the first stage, but it could help with the rest of the race potentially. We'll just have to see. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the current era of super speedway racing, and how do you feel about Talladega as a whole? Dega's on the top of my bucket list. I'm curious if it's on top of yours. Let us know in the comments. All right, now that we're done with all of that, we're done with all our topics here today, the news topics, done with Kansas and everything like that. It's time to go through our weekly picks, make our weekly picks for the week of Talladega for Dega. Some of you may know that this is a reset on our points. We have not our points on the series of 8. So we have a new series of 8 races. The way it works, you get to pick one driver every 8 races. This does not include special events like the All-Star race that's coming up in a couple weeks. And this does not include Crown Jewels, which we have the Coca-Cola 600 coming up here in a couple weeks. So you can just free pick those races. But we have these 8 races coming up and got to pick one driver out of every 8 races. This also means the Hail Mary bonus has reset. So you get one Hail Mary every 8 races, but you can't use it on a super speedway or on a road course, which makes it kind of difficult for this series of 8 because we have 3 road courses and we have 1 super speedway. So that leaves you 4 opportunities to use your Hail Mary bonus in this series of 8. So the way our standings are looking now, Tyler had a tough week. Tyler ended up picking Ryan Blaney at Kansas, ended up finishing outside the top 20. Tyler's worst finish of the whole entire year, and ends up dropping him from first to all the way to third. Very close standings, by the way, but it drops him all the way to third. Cory is now second in the points. Got a top 5 finish with Bubba Wallace, but he finished second behind me because I picked Dennis the Menace, Denny Hamlin, who finished right in front of him. But they both got top 5s, so each of us get 2 bonus points for those top 5s. I get 3 points for being the weekly winner, while Cory gets 2 points for the week. So that is how it looks heading in to Dega. So time to make our picks. Tyler, you get the first pick for Talladega Super Speedway. Who is your pick to win at Dega?
Oh, this is a risk after last week because last week the Fords had done screwed me again, and every time I done pick the Fords, they screw me. But this is Talladega, and there is one man out there that you can trust to be one of the best super speedway racers out there. And I'm going to have to say his name.
Oh my gosh.
Bring me Mr. Brad Keselowski.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Logano. That's why I said, oh my gosh. I was like, oh gosh, he's going to pick Logano.
Do I look like I have head damage?
Well, but that's why you paused and you're like, I can't believe I'm saying this and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, he's going to pick Logano, isn't he? Oh my gosh. You picked Brad K.
I still have my hair. Brad K.
Brad Keselowski. So Tyler has decided to pick Brad Keselowski, the driver of the number 6 for RFK Racing, to get his second win as a driver owner. Cory is not here, so he sent me in his first and second choice to win this race, and he'll actually be able to use his first choice to win this race because Tyler didn't pick his first choice, and his first choice was the driver of the number 24 of William Byron of Hendrick Motorsports to win at Talladega Super Speedway. Also, to make you feel pretty good, Tyler, his second pick was if you picked William Byron, he would have picked Noah Gragson. That was his backup choice. So that might make you feel a little good. So through our first 2 picks,
really
good. So through our first 2 picks, Brad Keselowski has been taken by Tyler, while Cory has decided to take William Byron to win the race. And I've been thinking about this hard. I know I talked about him a lot earlier on in the episode. I know I talked a little negative about him as well, which is very rare for me to talk negative about this guy because I have been a fan of this guy for 20 years. But I'm going to pick Kyle Busch. This is his rookie Hendrick Motorsports Lowe's car. He's obviously not driving that this weekend, but I just wanted to show it off. Kyle Busch, he is my pick to win at Talladega Super Speedway this weekend and get back to victory lane and end his longest winless streak of his not just Cup Series, but NASCAR career. So those are our picks for Talladega Super Speedway. I have decided to pick Kyle Busch, Rowdy, the driver of the number 8 for Richard Childress Racing, to win at DEGA, while Tyler has decided to pick Brad Keselowski, the driver of the number 6 for RFK Racing, to win at DEGA, while Cory has decided to pick William Byron, the driver of the number 24 for Hendrick Motorsports, to win at DEGA. And just to go over it one more time, there will be no Hail Mary bonuses this week because it is a super speedway, and Hail Mary bonuses cannot be used on super speedways or on road courses. We'll have to see if they get used in Texas or one of the other races throughout the series of 8. So those are our weekly picks for the week, and that will actually end this week's episode of Hit the Pace Car. We would appreciate a like, comment, subscribe, follow, share, do whatever you got to do. Whether you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, follow us on our different social medias like on TikTok, Instagram. Please follow us on Instagram because the algorithm is shit and Instagram doesn't do anything. Fuck Meta. I hate them. I hate them with a passion. They suck. But Tyler, any last thoughts for the people before we head out?
Man, I hope DEGA is a good old DEGA race. I hope that we get something crazy. That's all I can hope for.
I think that's all we can hope for when it comes to DEGA at this point. But that'll do it for this week's edition of Hit the Pace Car. I'm Trackside Larry. Tyler is a pace car boy. And we're saying peace. Peace.